Welcome everyone. Today's class number 2 in the 10 class series. Yesterday we spoke about mastering happiness and joy, and concisely put, we create the quality of our life moment by moment with the quality of our thoughts. High quality thinking gives us high quality life. Low quality thinking does the opposite. You can't not think a thought that you already thought, and you don't have to. You're always now in the present, and in the present you get to choose your next thoughts, words, and actions. Okay, so the word mind, first M is memory. When it comes to happiness and joy, the word memory refers to remembering moments of gratitude, moments of joy, the highlights. We mentioned about keeping a highlight journal. By keeping a highlights journal, you can rerun your highlights. If you don't like keeping a journal, you can still keep a highlights journal, because in your mind, think about what are some of my highlights yesterday, day before, my whole life. Now we're talking about building your self-image. What is your self-image? How you see yourself right now. It makes no difference in reality how you saw yourself yesterday or how you see yourself tomorrow. The only thing that really counts is how do I see myself now? My sense of identity, my sense of value and worth. I wrote a book called Building Your Self-Image and the Self-Image of Others. And if you look at self-image as a process that you're always building, so we're a work in progress, and we keep building our self-image. That'll also help us build our happiness and joy. Because a positive sense of self is conducive to positive life, positive joy. Also, we have a self-image. How do you see yourself when it comes to different traits and qualities? If you see yourself with positive qualities or negative qualities. And we're all a mixture. And we need a wise balance. So when it comes to self-image, we need to have self-confidence and courage and a sense of empowerment, but we also have to be aware of our total picture. Not being blinded to what have been my faults, what have been my mistakes, but not allowing mistakes and faults to limit our self-image, because our self-image is how we see ourselves now. And it's always now, right? So we're always now, and now you get the chance to see yourself now the way that you choose to see yourself. Now the Torah perspective of our self-image, there are three basic Torah consciousness, three basic Torah concepts that are the essence of how we should see ourselves. The first is that we are Tzelem Elokim. We're created in God's image. Chaviv Adam Shenivra B'Tzelem. It says in Pirkei Avos, Ethics of the Fathers, that we are created in God's image. That means we all have innate, intrinsic value. And nothing takes that value away. We definitely can act better, we can act worse, we can feel better or worse, but our feelings about ourselves can be separate from our consciousness, our knowledge about ourselves. Feelings very often go together with how we think about ourselves, but really they're two separate things. No matter how positive your sense of self will be, your feelings will still go up and down. Depending on how tired you are, depending on your nutrition, dehydrated or dehydrated. There's so many factors that are nothing to do with your consciousness about yourself, just on your physiological and emotional state and physical state that will affect your emotions. However, once you have a concept of my inner value is a given, I have infinite innate value. Infinite innate value. That's IIV. Infinite innate value. What does IV stand for? Innate infinite value. Innate infinite value. It's so important Now, how do you get ideas? Two ways. One way is get an epiphany. Sometimes we just get an awareness. Wow, I have innate infinite value. That's awesome. And someone says, okay, innate infinite value, good, so what? That's nice, but I don't feel it. And in order to feel it, sometimes we need to keep repeating it, autosuggestion. We're using the power of autosuggestion non-stop 24 hours a day, or not always 24 hours, but the amount of time we're awake, and whatever you're thinking when you're awake, you're going to end up dreaming dreams consistent with your thoughts, even if you don't remember your dreams. And it doesn't make a difference what you dreamt, because when you wake up in the morning, you can choose to say, yesterday we spoke about just the joy of being alive, and then we choose how we see ourselves. And that sense of value, self-worth. The word self-worth are very interesting. What do you mean self-worth? Because ultimately to ourselves, we are ultimate value. We have infinite value to ourselves. Because when we think in terms, let's say a diamond, how much is a diamond really worth to itself? It's a funny question. What do you mean, how much diamond worth? You can't answer the question. Because to the best of our knowledge, a diamond doesn't have a consciousness. And so it doesn't have a sense of self-value. So what the value of the diamond will be in the marketplace depends on context. If you're regular environment, what they're going to sell it in the store for, what the person who found this diamond in the rough, how much was that worth? If a person is starving to death and the only way they can get food is to trade this diamond for a loaf of bread, that might be what its value is worth. So for this person, it's not just getting a loaf of bread, it's saving their life. And to this other person, he wants to sell in the marketplace. So ultimately, when we think about a diamond, how much it's worth, contextual, context is important. Now, with the value of a human being, who decides your value? So your subjective feeling of value is your choosing. However, your ultimate value is by our Creator. The Creator says, "You're Elohim, you are precious." The second basic Torah idea is that we are banim lamakom. We're children of God. Having that consciousness, who am I? I'm a child of the Creator, that upgrades our sense of self tremendously. Because we're banim lamakom, we are children of the Creator. That's so far two statements of the sages. One is we are Tzel Elohim, creating God's image. We're banim lamakom, children of the Creator. And the third is bishvili nivra olam. Persons obligated to say the universe or the world was created for me. When you say it in English, you can say either the world was created for me or the universe was created for me. Let's try both sentences. The world was created for me. Try that sentence. The world was created for me. And now say the universe was created for me.
The universe was created for me.
So you have your choice how you want to translate the word olam, but the Hebrew is olam, the world or universe, and bishvili nivra olam. Now, doesn't that make a person arrogant and conceited? Maybe, maybe not. Because gaiva, arrogance, is considered one of the most negative traits. Humility is highly praised attribute. That was the attribute of Moshe. Moses was Ono Mikol Onam. He was the most humble person. How could he have that humility? He was a leader of Jewish people, and he brought the Torah. He had this personal relationship with the Creator. He went to Pharaoh, said, "Let shlachas ami, let my people go." He had this tremendous sense of self. But humility is realizing it's all a gift. It's all a gift. So humility is not I am nothing, but rather I have infinite value, but so does everybody else. That is, everybody has value. And you treat other people with tremendous respect. That's what class number 3 is, Torah attitudes to other people. How you treat other people. And how you see yourself will depend, that'll be a key factor. Because if a person has a low self-image, they might need to speak negatively against others, put people down, use verbal onosdvarim, verbal abuse, to put people down in order to feel good about themselves. But a person who has this strong sense of their own value knows that your value is a given. You don't need to prove your value to anyone. You don't need to boast to have a positive sense of self. We have that automatically. So these are 3 basic Torah ideas. Now, anybody will ask that people that focus on self-image, Well, they'll say, oh, your childhood plays a major role. How your parents saw you, what you heard from teachers. And that, of course, is true. When we were a young child, we're 3 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old, we don't have our sense of self by ourselves. We get input from the people who are important to us in our environment. When you go to school, your teachers will have a major impact on your self-image. And that's why a good teacher is the type of teacher that's going to see the value in every student, bring out the value in every student. The term self-esteem, very fascinating term, because very often people who are into low self-esteem will always find symptoms of low self-esteem. Remember somebody wrote a book about self-hate, and he wrote a whole list of different symptoms of self-hate. And there was a fellow many years ago here in Aish Torah who read that book, and he kept telling people they have self-hate. And some of his victims came over to me and said, "Oh, you know, this person told me I have self-hate, and he's really right. I do have self-hate." I said, "Did you eat breakfast today?" He said, "Yeah." That means you have self-love. You made sure you ate today. Did you sleep on a bed or you slept on the floor? I slept on a bed. Oh, wow, that shows they have self-love, that you cared about. You did. So he says, because if the author writes a book about self-hate, so he's going to try to prove that more people have self-hate. But if you prove that people have self-love, they're self-love. So really we're all mixtures. We all have mixtures because some of the symptoms, let's say a person says, well, if you're nervous about public speaking, that means you're worried about what people think of you. That shows that you don't have self-esteem. Because you have self-esteem, you know what? That's a perfectionist position. Because if you have a perfectionist, will look at it, it's either all or nothing. And really it's not. We're at different points along continuum. We're all different points along continuum. And so it's not yes or no self-esteem. And first of all, you don't have self-esteem or not have. Self-image and self-esteem are thoughts. Those are thoughts you think about yourself. So you have, let's say you can have a watch. A person can have glasses. Those things you have. But when it comes, you can have a heart. And everybody has a heart. Everybody has a brain inside their head. But when it comes to self-image and self-esteem, it's not having or not having. It's how I think about myself. And how you think about yourself is your choice of how you think about yourself. Now, there was a sales trainer, a fellow named Sandler. So he used to say, your success at selling is not going to be based on your education or your IQ. Doesn't make a difference what your IQ is as long as you're intelligent enough to talk about your product or service. You don't need to have a tremendous education. I always mentioned that how Edison had 3 months schooling. I heard that in an interview years ago with Napoleon Hill, and I said, is that true? He only had 3 months schooling. Next time I was at a library, I looked up biography of Edison. Yeah, he dropped out of elementary school after 3 months. He didn't like the schoolmaster, and we have light bulbs because of that, because he didn't learn how he's limited in what he can do, and therefore he created first light bulb. He's also the first one that created a voice recorder. First voice recording was by Edison. So basically, it's not a matter of education or IQ, success in life, but it's a matter of knowing tools and techniques. And the same thing we mentioned yesterday about happiness and Gateway to Happiness, which I wrote in 1983. The first sentence introduction is, happiness is a skill that can be learned. What's happiness? Skill that can be learned. So the goal is to keep learning the skill. And the way you build the skill up is practice. Same thing with a positive sense of self-image. Positive sense of self, keep building your self-image. And so this fellow Sandler said, your success at selling will be based a lot on your self-image. So look at yourself as 10 out of 10. Just everybody, let's say that sentence. I am 10 out of 10.
I am 10 out of 10.
Now this doesn't mean you'll be able to sell anything, because that's a skill. It's a skill to sell. So like let's say if somebody is in a desert and you happen to own this cup of water and you have enough water and you can then sell this water. A person says, but I have a stuttering. So I stutter all the time. And would you like to buy this water, right? And most people say that's not a great salesman. But if you have water and this person's dying of thirst, so he'll buy this water from him. So it's a skill. It's a skill. So the question really is how to show a person that they can benefit from what you're offering. Now, when it comes to building your self-image, what is the benefit of a positive self-image? It's a tremendous benefit to have a positive self-image, positive sense of self. And from a Torah point of view, you don't need to come on to this idea of 10 out of 10 because you're creating God's image. You're a child of God. The world was created for you. So this whole consciousness that we have intrinsic value, that is a given. Now the fourth important idea in self-image is if I can do something positive once, I can do it again. If I can do something positive once, I can do it again. For instance, to be a bank robber, how many banks you need to rob? One bank, right? Your person's already a bank robber with one bank. So if you rob 3 banks or 4 banks, you're a serial bank robber. So when it comes to doing something positive, so let's say you want to speak in public. How many times do you have to speak in public to say that you can speak in public? 1 time. So if you can get up in a room and say, I have a dream. Everybody who wants to be a public speaker or doesn't want to be a public speaker but would like to know they could be a public speaker if they wanted to be a public speaker and say, I have a dream. Everybody together, whoever wants to say it. I have a dream. Whoever said that, it's in public now. There's a lot of people around, so you can speak in public. Right? And you get 150,000 people in Washington to hear your speech, and then you're a public speaker. So because really, the only thing that stops people from being able to do a lot of things is they keep telling themselves they can't do it. It's a self-talk. Limiting self-talk limits us.
Where do we learn that self-talk from? Where does it come from?
Very good question. Where does your heartbeat come from? And it comes from the same place our heartbeat is an automatic thing. Once we learn to talk, we can it comes automatically.
No, but who turned out talking
yeah.
to be from positive to negative?
That's habit and practice. That's why it's a skill. Yes?
But some people's natural talk is to be positive to themselves. Not everyone is negative.
100%.
So then why is it a natural thing?
He said it. I didn't say it's natural to think negatively. I didn't say that.
Isn't the heartbeat natural?
Yes. And talking to ourselves is natural. Not negative self-talk. I see what you meant. I didn't mean that negative is natural. Neither positive nor negative is natural. We grow up a certain way. Talking to ourselves is a natural thing. So in sense, where does it come from? Where does it come from, the negative? It's either person heard someone say something negative about them, and they kept repeating it. And authority figures' statements have a tremendous impact. That's why if you have a really great teacher, they bring out the best in the student. It was like the Talmud talks about a teacher, Rabbi Preda. He was willing to repeat everything 400 times to the student who needed to hear that 400 times. So what was that student's self-image? His self-image was, I can understand anything and everything. All I have to do is hear it 400 times. If a Preda only had the patience to do 390 times, the student's attitude would be, I can't understand the thing. So, but because he needed 400 times, and Preda happily repeated it 400 times, this student says, I can learn anything. So really, our self-image is dependent on what message we heard, also who we compare ourselves to. If we compare ourselves to somebody who excels and we aren't as good at something as that person is, then we might subjectively view ourselves in a more negative way. However, it's not our reality, it's just the way we subject temporarily look at ourselves. So that's if I can do something positive once, I can do it again. There's another story that I like very much with the Chazon Ish, a great scholar. When he was a little boy, he was 3 years old, and he learned the alphabet, so he knew the Hebrew alphabet. So he told his father, I know the entire Talmud. Open up any volume, and I'll show you what's an Aleph and what's a Beis and what's a Gimel. His little boy couldn't read the words yet, but his attitude was, I can learn anything. I know everything already. I know everything I gave up. I don't need to study anymore. It was, I know every single letter in every single book over here. And it takes a real bright little child like the Chazon Ish, who grew up to be in the Chazon Ish. That was the name of his books, Chazon Ish. And he had that consciousness, I can learn anything. I know, because, again, if you learn do it once, I can do it again. Now, if a person tells somebody knows the alphabet, wow, now that you know the alphabet, you can read anything, any book. First of all, Hebrew is a little easier than English because English came from different languages, and so to know how to spell, if you need to learn each word separately for words that don't go consistent with the way they sound. Like, let's say enough. There's not an F in enough, but if you do how you sound, but in Hebrew, once you know the alphabet, you got it all. So knowing that and teaching that over to children, very valuable. So we have 5 ideas so far about self-image. The 6th idea on self-image is, if somebody else can do something, I can do it also. Now, is this always true? Of course not. Somebody's 7 foot tall, he can throw a ball in the basket, and if I'm 5 foot tall, I won't be able to throw the ball in the basket as good as he can. However, if you learn from someone who can do something, you'll do better than you would if you didn't have it. That's why Ezu Chacham, who's wise, Loi made me kol adam, learn from everyone. So as we learn from other people who can do things, then we can do more things. So if somebody else can do something, I can do it also. Again, not 100%, but having that attitude is a lot different than the attitude, oh, other people can do great things, I can't. And once you have an attitude, if somebody else can do things, I can do them also. And again, you'll see in life lets us know when we can do it, when we can't do it, how to do it. And number 7 is, if I can imagine doing something positive, I can do it. Let's say this sentence. If I can imagine doing something positive, then I can do it. Now, is that totally true? Of course not. I can imagine flying and I still can't fly. However, if it's something that you really could do, you want to have positive impact in people's lives, let's say anybody, we give out the happiness card, when we finish, we'll give it out again. And if you want to teach the happiness, you want to start your own happiness club, wherever you want to go, all you have to do is be able to read this and have a discussion. And that's all you need to do. Just ask, anybody have any thoughts on this? Let's everybody try that sentence. Does anybody have any thoughts on this? Terrific. That's all you have to do is be able to read and ask that one question. Does everybody have any thoughts on this? Then you can start your own happiness club wherever you are. So when we talk about building a self-image, that is a process. We're always a work in process. And as long as we're alive, we keep upgrading how we are. And the highest, Rambam talks about 8 levels of tzedakah, 8 levels of charity. The highest level of tzedakah, the highest level of charity, is not giving charity, but help a person become self-sufficient. Helping a person have a positive self-image will help a person not only now to feel a little better, but it'll help a person for the rest of their life. When you have a positive sense of self, that I can learn new things, that I can gain new skills, I can keep upgrading my skills. Because a lot of things that we would like to be able to do, we can't yet do. Now, the first thing, there's 2 basic skills that everybody in this room has. One is called walking, another one is called talking. Now, let's say you have a little child who is 2 months old. How many steps can a 2-month-old take? 0, right? 2-month-old can't walk yet. Now, very often, let's say he's 6 months old. 6-month-old child still doesn't walk. Now, let's say you have a 6-month-old kid who says, you know what, I guess I'm not going to be a walker because I see my father walks, my mother walks, I have other siblings and my cousins and my grandparents, they all walk, and I know I'm going to stay in this crib over here in the carriage, and I can't really walk, and I'm probably not going to be a walker, and that's really a shame. Okay, no 6-month-old kid talks to himself like that because their mental development, cognitive development isn't there, so you can't block himself. Similarly, the young 6-month-old child can't speak yet, but a 6-month-old child doesn't say to himself, I guess I'm not going to be a talker because I can't talk yet. I've been around this planet for 6 months and still can't talk, and it's a shame that I won't be able to talk. Nobody at 6 months old does that to themselves. Then when we get older, then we start telling ourselves what things that we can't do. And I personally found there's some things that I have done eventually. My first attitude was, I can't do that. One is writing books. And I remember Reb Mendel Weinbach of our Samech, he's the one I was learning in Kollel, and Reb Mendel Weinbach asked me about translate the laws of Lashon Hara, about speaking against others. There's a classic work, Chafetz Chaim, but there's Reb Shmuel Haminer wrote an adaptation called a book called Ikrei Dinim. And Reb Mendel Weinbach asked me if I would be interested in translating. Somebody wrote to him about translating the laws in English. Would I be able to want to do it? So I said, I don't think I can write a whole book. I wrote an article, and I showed him the article about Ahavas Yisrael for Jewish Observer, but write a whole book on it, I can't write a whole book. So I said no, and then 2 weeks later he asked me again. I said, okay, I'll try and see what happens. And I said, I figure once I'm doing it already, I'll not do Ikrei Dinim, I'll take the Chafetz Chaim's classic work and adapt that in English. Anyways, I ended up writing the book. After I wrote 2 books, somebody said to me, oh, you're going to write 20 books. I said, I couldn't write 20 books. I can't think 20 subjects to write about. Anyway, so now I have 25 books. So a lot of things that I thought I couldn't do. The one thing I thought I could do was teach. When I was 15 years old, I said I want to teach, be a Torah teacher. And I didn't plan to teach in Eish Torah when I was 15 years old. Simple reason that when I was 15 years old, Eish Torah didn't exist. Eish Torah started existing in 1974, and I was original teacher when we started. I joined with Rabbi Weinberg. So basically, if you have an attitude, if you can do things, wonderful, even if you don't know exactly how you're going to do it. Some things haven't been invented yet. What is the next invention going to be in the next 10 years? We don't know, 20 years, we don't know. So there's always new things coming out, new inventions, but realize we can keep upgrading yourself. We keep building your self-image. So whatever your self-image is, you're not stuck with it. You keep upgrading. Now there was a boy, a 15-year-old boy here in Jerusalem that got a 50 on a Talmud test. And the teacher called him over and said, the reason he got a 50 was he only answered half the questions on the test. Yeah, half the questions he left blank. But look at number 7. You answered that very beautifully. That was very, very good. That was very clear. Number 14, keep up the good work. Boy was surprised. He only got a 50, and the teacher praised him for what he got right. Okay, next week he got around 50 again. Teacher called him over. He said, now, sure, the teacher's going to reprimand me, tell me off. How come I did so bad? Instead, the teacher said, the reason you got a 50, you only answered half the questions on the test. But what you did answer was great. Look at number 19. Very hard question. Look how beautiful you answered it. It was a very difficult question. You got it right. Amazing. Good work. Keep up the good work. And he was so surprised. But he said, he's right. I did get this right. And so next week, he paid attention during class, and he reviewed what they studied, and he got 100 on the test. And he got 400s in a row. And now he's a very scholarly fellow, and married, and a number of children. And he's a scholar. And he said he didn't realize that this made a difference in his life till a year later. He saw he was getting really good marks, and he was wondering, how come I'm doing so much better? And then he realized, hey, that teacher, 2 weeks in a row, he took less than 2 minutes each time to point out what he did right, what he did good. And so I told this story over to somebody, and then he says, okay, I'll try it out. So he tells me, he reports back, he said, didn't work. I said, how'd you try to do it? He says, well, my son got about a 35 on the test. And so I told him, 35 is also something. You got some things right. Okay, very good. And then he got a real bad mark the next week. So he said, I told you did, how come you knew better? He says, you told me 35 is all right because I answered something right, so I might have to work hard. And he told me it doesn't work. You didn't do it right. When you give somebody instructions and information how to do something, you have to do it the right way. The teacher didn't tell him it's great to get a 50. The teacher told him you answered the questions, a couple questions you answered really right. You understood this. So the teacher pointed out, and even the difference between praising people for being good or for being smart, or praising people for putting in effort. This research shows that if you praise for effort, people will do more effort. If you praise people for being smart, they don't want you to have a negative opinion, so they won't take risks. So what you do, we've been saying, isn't it important to praise people to help positive self-esteem? Yes, and you have to do it the right way. Trying to upgrade self-esteem by just saying everybody gets prizes, everybody gets awards, no matter what you do, that's counterproductive. And we have to do it in a wise way. And also we need a wise balance in every trait, a wise balance, Because gaiva, arrogance, and conceit are problems, and it's negative. Humility is a virtue, but it's realizing your value and realize your intrinsic value and realize that you keep growing and developing how you are and who you are. Now, people give all kind of reasons why they have low self-image and or lack of self-esteem. And in building your self-image, we have a whole page and a half of different reasons why people have given for a negative sense of self. Some people say, well, I grew up in a country not speaking the language of the country for this first language, and I didn't speak well, and that was the reason I have low self-image. And another person has self-image because I was praised so much, I felt I couldn't live up to it. Some people say I was always insulted or put down. So people have all different reasons, too tall, too short, too this, too that, like whatever it is, and none of the reasons are really accurate. The only reason we have a low self-image is because we think of ourselves in a low self-image way. So, but by building our sense of self, realize I'm a work in progress, and I keep building my self-image. So from a Torah perspective, our sense of value is a given. We're created in God's image. We're children of God. B'shvili nirolam. The universe was created for me. Everybody together. The universe was created for me. So a person's going to say, the universe is created for me, but I have a low self-esteem. You can't do that. I mean, you can joke about it, or you could say it. I can repeat the words, the universe is created for me, but I don't feel it. And the key element is not just saying something positive, but feeling it, experiencing it. Now, what gets in the way is perfectionism. People feel if I'm not 100% perfect, then I'm a total failure. If I don't make my total goal of being the best in the world, then I'm really a total failure. Anybody who thinks all or nothing thinking, it's usually going to be more nothing than all, so therefore that is counterproductive. And we need joy for progress. What do we need? Joy for progress. 3 words. Joy for progress. Joy for progress. Feel positive about every bit of improvement, every bit of growth, every bit of further steps along the path. And the aim is, like there's a mission in Pirkei Avos, Ethics of the Fathers, Lo alecha mlach ligmar, you can't complete the work. It's talking about learning Torah, knowledge, but it's to do with every positive quality and every positive trait. Don't expect perfection, don't expect to finish the work. Via to ben chorin lebato mimena. Just because you're not going to finish it doesn't mean you should give up and not even start. We have to put in effort. We have to put in the sense of what do I need to do, and also learn from coaches, open to feedback. That's number 35 of the 48 ways, is oev techacha, loving feedback. It's also translated as loving criticism. Now, how many people really say, I really love Joe's a wonderful person to have around. And whatever you do, he always finds fault. He always tells you what you're doing wrong, and it's so wonderful to have him around all the time because this way you never get complacent, and I keep growing and developing. I don't know anybody that really would say that because we usually hate criticism, but when it comes to feedback, when we realize that we'll gain a lot by being open to feedback, we're much more open to feedback. So in order to develop further, gain mastery, first of all, hours. Research shows that a person, for real mastery, by real mastery I mean just competence, but real world-class mastery, 10,000 hours. Now some people spend 10,000 hours playing musical instrument, they sound awful, or they sing and they're off key because they're not open to feedback. So if you're a good judge of your own feedback is beneficial, and for a lot of people, your own feedback, you're biased. And your judgment is your own sense of the skill or whatever it is you want to be able to do. So the importance of having a Seluch Rav, get a teacher, mentor, coach, and in order to keep growing and improving. So self-image, very valuable, and right away you can upgrade your self-image because your self-image is based on your thoughts about yourself. There was this fellow, Sid Banks, and he started saying that he's insecure, and then he was at a workshop and he was talking about it, and he's telling somebody he's insecure. He only had 8th grade education, and he was born in Scotland, and he came to Western Canada, and he always looked at himself a little bit as an outsider, and he said he was insecure. So a person said to him, you're only insecure because you think you're insecure. And he realized, wow, just my thoughts. Wow. It's all in my mind. It's all in my consciousness. I'm just going to stop thinking that I'm insecure. Now, he had an epiphany, and then it changed his life. Most people don't have epiphanies. They hear the idea, okay, it's a nice idea, so what? So if you don't integrate, internalize the idea yet, nothing to worry. We keep building self-image. The more we repeat over good ideas to ourselves, and also being open to hear from different people. Some people can hear from one person, doesn't do anything for them. Somebody else, it does. Sometimes you hear the idea, you need to hear it many times from different people in different ways, then finally it hits. Wow, my self-image is dependent on the way I think, and I'm going to think of myself in a positive way. Okay, any comments, questions? Yes?
How do you keep yourself so motivated to be positive all the time?
Don't be all the time. First of all, I don't know anybody like that. So don't do it all the time, just do it sometimes. Then you can.
How do you get yourself to
Do it a little bit, seeing the benefit. The more we see the benefit, the more we'll be able to do it. And also if you enjoy, let's say a person enjoys the process of personal growth and personal development, so they enjoy it. So anything you really enjoy, you'll be able to do more.
The child was knocked down from when they were younger, and they just have so many negative thoughts
Right.
in their head. Is it just as simple as just changing?
1 second. We said it's simple. There's easy and simple. Is it as simple as that? Yes. It is easy? No. And that's all it is. Change your self-image. And so again, some people are open to an epiphany. Wow, everybody said negative stuff to me. You're wrong. I'm really creating God's image. I'm valuable. Or I choose how I view myself. I'm going to start viewing myself positive. Very few people do that, but it's humanly possible. And for most people, though, repeating the positive ideas and reading it and hearing it from different people will all work together.
Wow, thank you.
But it's really, that's the essence of it. Getting the realization, it's my thoughts about myself that create my self-image. I can upgrade my thinking about myself. Let's say that sentence together, everybody. I can upgrade my thinking about myself. That one sentence is really it. You can upgrade it. Is it easy or hard to upgrade it? Doesn't make a difference if easy or hard. That's the way it works. And if you enjoy repeating things, it's easier. If you hate repeating things, it's harder. But sometimes we have to keep repeating it in order to integrate and internalize.
I'm just
Yeah.
curious, like, let's say if you get into a fight with somebody or someone gets mad at you, like,
Yeah.
it's very hard to, like, get over that.
Unless both people who are in the fight both say, you are valuable, I am valuable. I still disagree with you right now.
Just like that.
Yeah. Again, it takes, some people can pay money to counselors for working out family relationships and or marriage counseling and to upgrade the way they're interacting with each other. But really that's the short of it and the essence of what we need to do. We need to upgrade the way we speak about each other. And if the whole family, everybody comes to a class like today and they say, wow, it's up to me. I'm dedicated to speak to other people in a positive way. Let's all say that sentence. I'm dedicated to speak to other people in a positive way. That's that building your self-image of others. And if you have a whole group, you remember hundreds of people saying positive stuff to you. Now, it's possible for people who are perfectionists to say, oh, even though everybody thinks I did really great, but I really see that I made some flaws and I really see some things wrong over here and I'm imperfect. Of course we're imperfect. Every human being is imperfect. Therefore, that doesn't have to define you. Because all descriptions are maps and the map is not the territory. This is a thought of Krzyzewski. People familiar with Krzyzewski? He's one of the 5 famous Alfred Krzyzewski. And he wrote a book in 1933 called Science and Sanity. And he has this expression, all descriptions are map, the map is not the territory. Everything you say is a to-me statement, and add the word etc. at the end of every description. So anything you say about yourself is only a to-me sentence. Moreover, Krzyzewski also said you should put a date after every person, because Joe in 1931 is different than Joe in 1932. Moreover, they put not only a year after everybody's names, but put a date, because Joe on Sunday is different than Joe on Monday. So a person can say, I 1932, I had a low self-image. I don't think anybody in this room had a low self-image in 1932. Am I correct? I don't think anybody here was around 1932. I came on the planet at 46, so most people look younger than me. So basically, we didn't have a self-image in 1932, but Krzyzewski did, and to basically put a date after his name. So a person said, yes, I had a low self-image a year ago, but that's just a year ago. Right now, I realize I create my self-image with my thoughts, and I choose my thoughts. Okay, wishing everybody everything wonderful, good, and terrific, and we're going to give out the happiness card.